Hey everyone, my name is Michael. I'm the Customer Success Lead at Xano, and in this video, I'm going to go over the different data caching functions which are powered by Redis. So Redis is essentially a open source framework for storing data on memory. All you have to know is that behind the scenes, Xano uses this as a best practice to power our data caching functions. So if we want to go ahead and open up the function stack, we'll see third one from the top is data caching. Data caching is only available on our dedicated resource plans, but let's go ahead and click into these and get a quick overview. So the first one is to set a cache value. So one thing you should know about data caching with Redis is that it works in key value pairs. So when we set a cache value, we first, as you can see, would define a key, and this is how we would also retrieve this value, would be by the key. So I could say something like key 123. And then the data oftentimes will probably be a variable. For now, I can just set this as a number. I'll just say 100. And then finally, TTL stands for time to live. This is how long we want to store this cache value on memory. If we set it to 0, then that will just be forever. It won't actually delete. Otherwise, we can define in seconds how long we want to keep it. So I'll go ahead and just save that. The next one up, if we go back into the function stack and into data caching, is get a cache value. So all this does is if we know the key of a cache value, we can actually just type it in, and then the value will actually be stored in a return variable so that we can use it throughout our function stack to continue to manipulate the data. If I go back into data caching, we have has cache value and delete cache value, which are pretty similar. They just take in a key. Has cache value will have a return variable. So all you would do is put in the key here, and it will return either a true or false Boolean depending on if this key actually exists. So you can do likely different conditional logic based on if a cache value exists or not. And for delete cache value, it takes in a key, but there's no return variable. So you would just be deleting that. So if we go ahead and open back up data caching, you can see there's also increment cache value and decrement cache value. So we can actually use these sort of like temporary counters on memory. So for example, for increment cache value here, you would first set a key and the value to actually increase the value by. So this could be good to use. Let's say you have some ongoing promotion where maybe the first 100 users to hit this API actually wins the promotion, or maybe let's say it's the 100th user to do that. So you can create this on the fly counter and create logic based on the number that comes back in the return variable for what to happen when that number is actually reached. And so decrement cache value works the same way, but it's just the opposite. You're decreasing a value. Also, get cache keys. So get cache keys allows you to search for all the existing cache keys. So for example here, we can use this wildcard or a combination of it to retrieve an array of cache values. So if I were just to put in this asterisk here, what's going to happen is you'll see an array of many cache values because I have used and tested many in this workspace, right? So let me go ahead and let's just simply hide this for now. But if I return this asterisk in keys, you'll see that I have created a lot of cache values here. And just to show a combination of doing that, we can actually go ahead, I'll type in key and space and then asterisk, and this should just get my key space 123. So if I run that, you can see that right there. Last but not least is our rate limit function. So we've abstracted how to create the rate limit in a very single line function here. So if we actually open this up, you can see there are a few things to configure. So first we will create a key for the rate limit. So I'll just call this key, let's say example 123. The max is the maximum amount of API calls allowed for this endpoint to be called. And then the TTL is the cycle or the time to live of the max amount of time. So right now this is saying 5 calls per 60 seconds would trigger the rate limit. And then the error is something optional. So we can put in an error message like too many API calls, or we can leave that blank. If we leave that blank, what's going to happen is this return variable will return a true or false Boolean. True if the rate limit has not been hit yet, and false if you cannot make any more calls, so the rate limit has been hit. And that's important because that allows you to do different logic in case you want to, based on if there's been too many requests per the amount of seconds that you define. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, I'll just drop this down to 3, and we'll say 10 here, and I'll just kind of show you an example of the rate limit. And I actually don't need to return anything here. So if I go ahead and first I run this, we can see that was successful, and then this fourth one will have my error that I put, too many API calls. So if I'm to get rid of this error message here, let's go ahead and save that, and then I'll just add this rate limit variable to the response so you can see the different booleans it turns back. So if I go ahead and run this now, we can see it's true, we're good to run, and then all of a sudden it's false. So we've hit that rate limit. So you can see how those booleans would be useful if you want to create different logic based on what's going on. So once again, that is it for all these different data caching functions. They allow you to get very granular and advanced with some of the things you might want to do. If you haven't seen it already, we do have response caching, which abstracts all of this for many use cases. If you just open the settings of a function or API endpoint, you can see you can enable data caching. And there's a whole nother tutorial and documentation right there on how and when to use that. But these functions allow you to do some pretty cool and advanced stuff, give you a lot more control. So I hope you found this stuff helpful. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to Xano's YouTube channel. And I'll be coming out with some tutorials of some examples, real use cases of using this stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. Check out the documentation and see you in the next tutorial.